Hello, this is an update to my previous PDL video. On the 20th of July I had PDL all over the face. This is what it looked like. Pretty dramatic, as you can see, and on one side the bruising was particularly heavy. So today is the 25th of October, it's a Thursday, so it's over 3 months since my last PDL. Progress. There's been some improvement, but there's much to be desired. What you're seeing right now isn't really a true representation of the problem areas for several reasons, one of which is that I'm using a poor quality camera to record this. Also, you can't quite see because of the light that is coming in. It's the sunlight is illuminating one side of my face slightly, so you can't quite see the marks. So the problem with PDL for me is there's too many gaps left in between the spot treatments. You know what I'm talking about, 10mm spots. What I really wanted was for the laser clinician to not leave any gaps whatsoever, but as he was doing it, he said, don't worry about any of the gaps, because the gaps will actually benefit. And I think what you thought would happen is that, well, I'm sure it's been the case in the past that when you treat somebody with the laser, like the area around the immediate 10mm spot size also swells and some of those blood vessels coagulate. Well, my face hasn't quite responded in that way. What's happened is that when I exfoliate my face, or when I go out into a cold environment and then enter a hot room, or even if my face just flushes from, say, eating food, you can see these little areas where the spot treatment had been. You can see it's like almost like a cheese grater effect, and I was worried about that happening, and I wish I just insisted that he fill everything in so there's no skin showing. The areas I had treated were up here like this, and around here, and around the nose, and down here, and it's hard to see, but if I can position my face in such a way, can you see, hang on a minute, can you see these little marks here and here and here and on the sideburns? Can you see those? You can probably can you see those? I hope you can. What I should probably do is go and exfoliate and come back, but I've also got these marks here. Can you see that on the jaw there? That's pretty bad. Also on this side, you just can't see because of the light. I'm so sorry about the quality of this video. I don't know what else to do. I think I'll probably go into my bathroom in a minute, or stand below a fluorescent light and see if that makes any difference. Okay, so I'm in the bathroom. Can you see that mark there? That's where the laser went. Now, I don't know if the laser's left that behind, or if they're the bits that the laser didn't get. Can you see here on the temple area? You can see those vague circular marks, can't you? I mean, the camera does lie, because it's not showing how bad it really is. This side isn't so bad around the temple. It's been quite good around the temple, but again, I've got these marks here on the jaw. I don't know if it's because I don't know exactly what that is. I did exfoliate a few days ago, and ever since then it seems to be quite bad. But what I can say is, you're not going to be able to see this, but it's about around here. The skin is particularly good, the way it's recovered, because there were hardly any gaps left with the spot treatment. It was all solid bruising. It was like one big bruise rather than lots of little bruises. And after that healed, I noticed that on some occasions my forehead flushes. I never used Mirvaso on my forehead, by the way. Well, I used a tiny bit in the middle as a test, but that barely had any effect. But my entire forehead often gets quite red, and the redness goes right up into my hairline and even a little bit into the hairline, like a few millimetres inside. And when I stand under a fluorescent bulb on my landing with a mirror looking at my head, I can see the skin of my scalp is completely normal, almost like Snow White, you know, like normal. Obviously my hair has been protecting the skin of my scalp for years from the sun, but my forehead, I believe it's been damaged by repeated sun exposure and lack of sunscreen. So quite often, for no particular reason, my forehead gets very red and flushed. I've also got acne, as you can see. Anyway, when I had my PDL, I said to the laser clinician, I want my forehead to be treated, and he says, oh no, we won't get it any paler than what it is. Well, there and then, in the laser theatre, it looked okay, but you know, it's around this time of year, October, November, December, January, when winter comes on, that's when my forehead tends to get quite reactive. Anyway, what I'm trying to say in a roundabout way is that the bruising I've got here that I did have on the temple healed so well that when my forehead flushes, I can see an immediate difference between the skin tone of my forehead and the skin tone of the treated area of my temple. That goes for both sides. That applies to both sides. There's a difference. There's a clear difference. My forehead becomes bluish, greyish, purplish, reddish all over. The whole thing just flushes, and then, you know, a few minutes later it's back to normal again. But where I had the full bruising, it was really effective. Now, there's certain areas on my cheeks which were treated quite heavily. Right there, for example, it's kind of like a mottled effect rather than it being solid red, which is what it was before. It's more mottled now. It's kind of there's a blotchiness. But again, I wish I'd insisted on absolutely everything being filled in. You know, like paint by numbers. You fill in the entire area. And I've still got some marks which are left from the laser. You just can't quite see because of the light. I mean, if every now and again you'll see like little circular areas, like. But I can't really afford to keep going back and going over and over and over the same bits with PDL. I mean, if I'm gonna have the PDL, I need to be flushing pretty much right in front of the laser doctor, so he knows exactly which bits to go for. But he's still gonna miss certain areas, which is why the first time or the second time I had it, I wish I'd just said, look, just go for everything, just everything. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have IPL on the entire face. So today is the 25th. On the 27th, I'm having the entire face done, all of it, £250. I've had the consultation already. the person who's treating me is a GP with a particular interest in cosmetic dermatology. He's not. Sorry, my eyes are always stinging. I've also got redness on my eyelids, by the way, and they get quite dry and itchy. I wear contact lenses sometimes as well, and it causes irritation. He's going to do the entire face. He's not a dermatologist, but he does do IPL. £250. So IPL is different in that it's not laser as such, it's light, intense light, and it treats larger areas. So that I'm hoping it will clean up the leftovers that the laser either didn't get or possibly irritated. I'm going to ask the doctor if he can treat my eyelids with IPL. I also asked him, will the IPL cause hair loss, because I know it can do that, and he said no, not this one. So I hope not, because I don't want to lose all my beard. I've also got redness on the side of the nose there. I had a PDL on my nose last year, and he treated the entire nose, but not that bit. That bit didn't get enough laser. I know it seems to me that the more laser I have, the slower it takes for me to recover. I've got to say, considering how dramatic the PDL was, there hasn't been as much of a change as I hoped there would be. The improvement has been moderate. It certainly has subtracted a lot of the redness, particularly on this side, but it's missed a lot of it, hence the pockets of redness. Now, this may all look quite mild, but you haven't seen anything. You haven't seen it when I get a facial flush and these pockets of redness get really, really obvious. I mean, even makeup wouldn't hide it. It can be pretty bad. So certainly I'm going to be going for this IPL, and hopefully that is going to make some big changes. I'm sure that won't be the end of it. I'm sure I'll be having to have another IPL in the future, maybe in a year's time, maybe even before then. I probably would have PDL again, because it is pretty good at reducing broken blood vessels, some of which I have around my nose, which appear on the sides of my nose. I'll maybe have PDL on the forehead. I'll have to convince the doctor to do it, because he seems to think I don't need it, but I'd have to try and give him an example of a flush.